Israeli forces remain inside al-Shifa hospital after launching a fourth raid since the war on Gaza began. After shelling and shooting inside the complex, Israeli troops have been going room to room, detaining people sheltering inside. The Israeli military says 20 people were killed in the siege. It says Hamas fighters were hiding in the building. Well, in a few moments, we'll speak to Willem Marx, who is in occupied East Jerusalem for us. But first, let's go to Hani Mahmoud, who is live for us in Rafah in southern Gaza. And Hani, Israeli forces still at al-Shifa. What's the latest you're hearing from there?
Yes, Tom. Well, let's start with the fact that the Israeli military withdrew from inside the al-Shifa complex in what seemed to be a tactical withdrawal, and one more time stormed the hospital at later hours. And right now, what it's doing on the ground is bulldozing the courtyard of the hospital, the front yard, the backyard of the hospital, and conducting an aggressive search, building to building, room to room, and also warehouse inside Shifa Hospital, and been doing so, causing a great deal of damage to the property, and already overwhelmed and damaged the property from the time it was stormed in early December last year. But right now we're looking at an unconfirmed reports right now. Various reports talk about a large number of people have been detained inside the hospital, other than the previous numbers of early mornings of yesterday. We're looking at closer to 150 or a little over that, depending on the kind of reports that we're looking at. Still unconfirmed, but there are at least 20 people have been killed inside a Shifa complex as the storm continued. And one of the people who were killed inside the hospital is a top security commander who have been coordinating the efforts between Gaza clans and UNRWA, and have successfully secured the delivery of 80 trucks within the past 2 days to the northern part of Gaza City, the northern part of the Strip and Gaza City. And by doing so, according to what we heard from people in Gaza and the northern part, by killing this security commander, they're looking at more chaotic situations are going to happen, as it shatters a sense of safety and security for other people to continue coordinating this kind of work to deliver aid to the northern part and Gaza City.
And Hani, it's not just al-Shifa, is it? There have been more strikes and attacks elsewhere overnight too.
Yes, well, the airstrikes continue to pound also at the vicinity of a Shifa complex. More of the residential buildings are not only being relentlessly bombed right now. We've heard about 2 residential buildings at the northern gate of the Shifa hospital. They've been completely destroyed. Also from the southern part of the complex, one more residential building, a mosque at the western part of it. Overnight airstrikes here in Rafah city targeted several areas in central Rafah and eastern part of the city, killing at least 14 people. And again, we're looking at the same pattern of people who are being killed by these attacks overnight, women and children, displaced families inside residential homes. So at least 3 areas were targeted overnight attacks. In Gaza City, almost at the same time when the overnight attacks happened in Rafah, another relentless airstrike in the northern part of Gaza City, mainly in a Sheikh Radwan district, where a residential home with displaced families inside of it were destroyed. Initial reports talk about 6 people who were transferred to Kamal Adwan Hospital and large number of injuries. But again, we're looking, since al-Shifa hospital is under military siege right now, and the military is operating inside of it, all the transferred to a really overwhelmed and almost out of service hospital in the northern part, Kamal Adwan Hospital, that put the life of those injuries at risk right now, as there is no medical treatment or medical supplies available to save lives right now.
Okay, thanks so much, Hani. We really appreciate it. As always, Hani Mahmoud for us there in Rafah. Okay, let's bring in Willem Marx, who is in occupied East Jerusalem for us. And Willem, what is the result of the Israeli operation so far from their point of view?
Well, the Israeli military's last major statement on this came overnight. They talked about the fact that they were continuing their operations in and around the complex. They'd arrested 200 people they suspected of acting against them. They're now interrogating, investigating those individuals. They said that they killed 20 people. Don't forget, they said they came under fire. They returned fire from several hospital buildings. They also said that they had killed an individual called Faik Makboul. They described him as a senior special operations directorate for Hamas's internal security. People we've spoken to in Gaza, though, this morning have said he was a law enforcement officer, no doubt part of the Hamas structure, but essentially a policeman, and had played a critical role over the last few weeks in making sure that aid convoys through the Strip could pass safely and unhindered. So his death, something the Israeli government, the Israeli military, talking about as significant. It will be interesting to see what that means for law enforcement and that kind of support for aid convoys in the days ahead.
Yeah, indeed. Willem, what does the raid ultimately say about Israel's continued military activities in Gaza?
It shows very clearly that areas that they had previously operated in, including this complex as early as November, are still places where they come under fire, presumably from Hamas fighters. They said they acted on intelligence to go back into this hospital complex. They are not just going to be focused on Rafah, which has been really, really important, both from their perspective militarily, but from an international pressure perspective because of the numbers of individuals, civilians in that region, in that southern part of Gaza. This seems to indicate that it's going to be incredibly complicated over the next few weeks to hold on to territory in Gaza for the Israeli military without coming under attack from Hamas. And that, again, is another reason there may be further pressure on the Israeli government to try and figure out a ceasefire deal.
Okay, thank you so much, Willem Marx, for us there in occupied East Jerusalem.